what happened after that is I came back thinking I want to study something that has to do with differences, right? Like I want to understand why are we so different? Why do we behave the way we behave? And this was 95. There wasn't such a career as a career in intercultural studies or cross-cultural studies. That didn't exist. At least not in Argentina, for sure. Anyway, so I studied psychology. I went on to be a clinical psychologist, and eventually life put in front my friend who went with me to Paris with my grandma. One day she was studying in England, and she's now an expert in international policy, believe it or not, and lives in Belgium. But she said to me, hey, Marcela, do you know that there's a master's program on cross-cultural psychology in England? And I was like, what? So is that something people can study? Anyway, so I went, at the same time, I met my husband, who is Australian. I studied cross-cultural psychology. And then all this time, I was a volunteer for AFS, supporting international students in Argentina, supporting, teenagers who were living in Argentina for 6 months or a year. So that was kind of my hobby, my side gig, because, I didn't think that was a career possible. But then when I did my master's, from then on, I just completely pivoted into what I think is my passion, which is work across cultures. And from London, we ended up coming to Australia with my husband. We now have 2 kids here. But in the process, I started working in international education as an intercultural specialist. Most people say, what is that? What is a cross-cultural psychologist? What does an intercultural specialist do, right? Basically, what I do is I work with people trying to help them work, live, study, play across cultures.
Excellent.
I say all those verbs because, depending on the stage in your life, what you need to do. For us, it's working with people who are different with us. But for kids in the playground, it's about learning to play with kids who are different to them. At university, at school, is how to study with those who are different to you. So we live in a multicultural world, in an increasingly interconnected, diverse world that I think that's a superpower. If you don't know how to work with those who are different to you, it will be really hard to survive in this environment. Or you can survive for sure. You will be thriving. So that's my journey. I ended up here in Australia with my husband. I had my 2 kids. And then 5 years ago, I know everyone knows the story of what happens in 2020. There was a pandemic. So I lost my job in AFS, which is an international exchange student organization. Of course, in Australia, the borders were closed, and I had to then at that point I lost my job, and I thought, what can I do? And then I started my own company with a good friend of mine, Fran, and we started Value Learning, which is we work fostering intercultural understanding and advancing global competence. And the funny thing is that I actually met Fran in 1998 in another one of my experiences. I came to Australia on a volunteer exchange program. I was a volunteer for AFS in Argentina, and they sent me to Australia on a volunteer program, and Fran was my host family. So 30 years later, pretty much, not 30, but 25, we became business partners. And here we are.